Hello, my name is Brian Linnekens, and I'm the President of Global Innovation Development. When evaluating a potential real estate project, it's absolutely critical that the developer perform adequate soil evaluation. This really needs to start before you purchase the property in order to ensure that you don't buy a piece of real estate that can't support your envisioned project, or even worse, that has some environmental issue which might make it completely unusable without suitable mitigation. Typically, during the initial due diligence period, that is, prior to even purchasing the property, a developer will have hired a soil engineer to prepare what is called a Phase 1 environmental report. This is a written report which compiles historical information regarding the site, including prior owners and uses, neighboring uses and events, and general knowledge about the neighborhood, including the assumed level of the water table and general nature of the soil, and a variety of other potential factors. However, a Phase 1 report generally doesn't include any direct testing on the subject property itself. Oftentimes, a developer will find that the Phase 1 report is a satisfactory level of diligence in order to close escrow and purchase the land, particularly if the site is in an infill location with no particular red flags in the Phase 1 report. However, if there is even the slightest suggestion in the Phase 1 that there may be some unusual issues with the site, things like a high water table or prior toxic usage, maybe unusual rock content or other potential complications, then the developer will usually require an additional evaluation in the form of a Phase 2 test and environmental report. For this Phase 2 report, the soil engineer will remove several cross-sections of the soil by boring into the surface of the site to specified depths. Those samples will then be submitted for laboratory testing, which will reveal the exact characteristics of that specific soil, including things like the rock profile, the presence of any toxic materials, and also the compaction of the soil. Depending upon the size and scope of the project, the Phase 2 test will usually require anywhere from 4 to maybe 10 borings, but sometimes many, many more if it's a particularly large piece of property. These borings will allow the soil engineer to create a visual map of the site with respect to the various soil conditions. The soil engineer will also prepare a detailed report describing things like the grain size and color, the firmness and composition of the soil. This map and report will then be used to assist the architect in the positioning of the footprint of the building, and also the structural engineer in designing the footings and foundation for the project. In the event that the Phase 2 report reveals some incurable defect or a condition that could only be mitigated with significant cost, then the developer may choose to pass on the project altogether, or at the very least secure some price concessions from the seller in order to help offset the added cost of mitigation. In particular cases, the soil engineer may also perform a bearing test of the soil at, again, varying depths. This test helps determine the ability of the soil to withstand the weight of the proposed structure and can be critical when designing the proper type and size of the footings. This type of bearing test is particularly important when you're dealing with a site that has an unusual slope and therefore will have unique lateral forces, meaning sideways or sliding forces applied to the foundation. This bearing test can also be used during the construction itself by helping the excavation team ensure that they excavate the footings in a manner which will avoid having the soil collapse in on itself prior to the time that the footings are poured. Evaluating and analyzing the soil of a potential project is not necessarily one of the most glamorous parts of real estate development, but every project starts at the bottom, and the strength and characteristics of the soil are integral to every proper building. So careful attention to the soil is absolutely necessary to ensure that you don't buy a piece of land that can't support your envisioned project, and also to ensure that you can cost effectively develop your proposed structure. Good luck and have a great day.